Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. I know you guys are seeing this in January, but it's still December in my world, which means Christmas nails are still a thing. The first few videos of January will probably still have Christmas nails. We'll see what happens. But today I am here to talk about multiplacing again. So this is the second part of, or it's the follow-up video to my multiplacing video that I posted a couple of weeks ago. Was it a couple weeks ago? I don't remember. It doesn't matter. So there were some questions on that video. I had some comments with some really good questions that I wanted to address like in a video format as opposed to just responding to your comments. So I do have that video pulled up, and I also had posted in my community tab to put any questions there if you had them. So we're gonna go through all of those questions. Also, I wanted to share multiplacing on a square canvas. So this is Starry Night Santa from Diamond Art Club. This is my last kit of the year, which is crazy. I can't believe, for you guys, it's already been the new year, but I can't believe that we're wrapping up 2022. And I pulled this canvas out and I was like, this has some really good color blocking, so it would be a good one to share with you guys. I don't quite know when my first square is for the year. We haven't, I haven't planned my kits out. I'm actually going to be filming that video later today or tomorrow. We'll see. So I don't quite know when my first square is, so I didn't know when I would have another chance to film this relatively soon. I don't like to leave follow-up videos like sitting for too long. I like to kind of get things wrapped up. So we are going to be talking about squares. Like I said, I have questions from you guys. So I'm going to be going through all of that. All right, so let's get set up with our canvas and ready to go. So like I said, this is my last section. This was a last minute, semi-last minute addition to my December lineup, but I'm really glad I worked on it this year and that it will be my final kit. We have a tray here. This is a tray from JH Envision Labs, which has been a favorite for quite a while, but this tray is actually falling apart. I've pulled off multiple pieces of filament. I don't know if you guys can see that. Focus. It just keeps like falling off. I don't know what's happening. Focus down here now. Focus. Okay, well, we need to focus on something. Focus. There we go. So I'm kind of disappointed. I have a lot of trays from them. I have had this one for a while, so I don't know if that's why, but it's falling apart and that makes me very sad. But anyway, we have that tray. I'm going to be working with Randa's Crafty Corner putty. There were quite a few questions about putty, so we will go through those. I'm also using her regular wax in my single placer. Or that's her hard and sticky wax, not her regular. This is a pen from Jim's Handmade Pen Shop. It just has snowflakes. I might have to stop this recording because now I feel like my focus is all messed up, so I might have to come back to you guys. But and my binder is from Country Craft Closet. So I'm going to start with answering your questions, and then I'm going to go into multiplacing with squares. So let me go to the video. The first question was, what was the putty you recommended from Amazon? I forgot to link it. So that was called Museum Putty Quake Hold. I'll go back and answer that comment and give them a link. But I did obviously forget to link that. So it is called Museum Putty Quake Hold. Actually, I have it this time. Let's see. It's right here. Last time I couldn't find it, but it is Museum Putty Quake Hold, or Quake Hold Museum Putty, whatever. But it comes, I've actually broken mine up into my own pieces of release paper, but it comes in, if I can get it, it comes in like a big block. This is a whole pack's worth that I split up into 2 packs of release paper, but it's just, it looks like all the other diamond painting putties, basically. and you just pull off a little piece. I find this one's a bit more stringy than some of the others that people sell specifically for diamond painting, but I'll just pull off a little piece like this. And then I would just roll it between my fingers, similarly to how I use all of the other putties, and then I would just stick it into my multiplacer. I'm going to stop this recording because I feel like my focus is off, and I'll be right back. Okay, hopefully that will solve that problem. I hate watching videos that aren't in focus, so I didn't want to force you guys to do the same. But yeah, so this Quake Hold, I would use it the same way I use all of the other putty options. There were quite a few questions about how often you take the putty out and refill it. So it looks like somebody else. Okay, so Bree, thank you for responding to that comment. I'm very behind on comments, but Bree actually responded with pretty much the same thing that I would say. She said that it's different for each person depending on what putty you're using and how you place your drills. She feels like, Brie and I feels like we diamond paint very similarly. However, we could be using different putty. I usually can diamond paint for several hours on one fill of putty. So I pretty much would have said the same thing there. I just refill when I need to. When I feel like the drills aren't picking up as well as they were, I will refill. Sometimes I just refilled this one last night, of course, because my multiplacer broke. But sometimes I'll just pull out the old putty. So this isn't old putty, like I said, this is from last night, but sometimes I'll just pull out what's already in there and I'll just roll it again and then I'll just put it back. Because sometimes you can have like the other side of the putty that hasn't really been used. So it's really just personal preference. I would say when you feel like you need new putty, you can get new putty. Now, I think I'm jumping ahead, but I do recall a couple of questions about, do you replace the putty completely? Do you add extra to the putty? I do either or both. It just depends on, again, how it feels. If I think that when I originally filled, I just didn't put enough in, I'll add another little strip. If I feel like the putty itself is just not good anymore, I'll take it out and add all new putty. So it's very personal, I guess. It's very personal preference. So it's kind of just, you have to experiment with it. If you're looking to switch to putty, it's a little bit of a learning curve, but I think that you will enjoy it in the end. Oh, somebody commented that they would like to see my book corner when I get it done. Cool, I will do that. It's been a while since I've done like a real life with Laura mini video, so I might put that in a mini video. Okay, so Miss Lizard said, I'm glad you showed round drills. I can multi-place pretty well with squares. That's interesting. I feel like it's the opposite for a lot of people, but rounds never seem to be even for me. I think I just need to practice. Do you think the putty allows for the drills to be more even, or is there no difference than with wax? I personally, I feel like I multi-place better with putty than with wax. And that is because I find the wax, whether it be pink wax or purple wax or blue wax, whatever you prefer, I find the wax to be more slippery and slick of a surface. So when I'm laying down the drills, I feel like my pen moves around more and I don't get them exactly where I want them. Obviously, other factors can play into that, drill quality, canvas quality, other things like that. But I personally do feel like I multi-place better with putty, which is why I'm such an advocate for it and why I enjoy using it so much more. There's absolutely nothing wrong with pink wax. There was a kit that I was working on in a video with you guys a couple of weeks ago that I could only use the pink wax because the canvas itself just didn't have enough adhesive to deal with the putty. So I do think that when you're using putty in a multi-placer or a single placer, I just prefer it in a multi-placer, I feel like it holds on to your drills a bit more than just a wax does. So if the glue or the poured glue, the adhesive, isn't strong enough, sometimes you can struggle with getting the drills off of the putty, if that makes sense. Okay, so we have a bit of a multi-part question here from Miss Nancy. Nancy, I love ya. It says, how do you know when you have to add more putty, was her first question. And I feel like I kind of answered that. So personally, for me, it's just when I feel like the putty isn't working as well. It's not performing as well as it should. If I'm having a hard time picking up drills, if I'm having a hard time getting drills to where I want to lay them down, then I feel like I need more putty. The second question is, do you take the existing putty out or re-roll it and put it back or get new putty? Like I said a little bit earlier, I do both. It kind of just depends. I feel like the more you wax with the putty, the more you wax with the putty, what? The more you work with the putty, you'll kind of just learn what your preference is or what you think needs to be done. So if I can reuse a piece of putty, I'm going to, but also packs of putty like this, they last for so long. So if you just want to pull the putty out and replace it with new, you certainly can do that. The third part of that question was, how long does the first load of putty last? The whole kit, or do you change it / add to it several times during the process of the kit? So that varies by putty. Now, I worked on I want to say it was a 60 by 60 centimeter kit, and I used this particular putty, which I did showcase in part 1 of this, I guess we'll call it a series now. I used this in a multiplacer for I believe it was 60 by 60, and I did not have to refill my multiplacer once. This lasted the length of the entire kit. This particular kit, I've been using Randa's Crafty Corner putty, and I only had to refill last night because my multiplacer broke, and I was just like, I'll just chuck it and get some more putty. So, you know, it broke on this second section here of this row, so I made it through 3, 6, 8 sections roughly of this size. So, you know, again, it's going to be personal preference. And sometimes if I do feel like the putty's not as sticky as I want it to be, I'll take it out, I'll re-roll it, and I'll put it back in. But the same amount of putty I used nonstop for this kit, or that other kit I was just talking about. Oh, excuse me. I just had a frog in my throat. And I just lost my train of thought, unfortunately. What was I talking about? Yeah, so basically it depends on the putty, it depends on the kit, it depends on the other factors that I kind of mentioned before. But these smaller types of kits, I can usually get through without having to replace my putty. I remember what I was going to say. Also, keep in mind that I diamond paint pretty much every day. I feel like if you're not diamond painting and your putty's just kind of sitting out, it may harden a little bit, it may need to be replaced, but because I feel like it's one of those, the more you use it, the better. You know what I mean? It's not just sitting there drying in your pen, it's being used every day. And for me, I don't put my pen away when I'm not diamond painting. It will, like I have this container, this time I have some extra room, so it'll just sit out. I don't put the cover on. You really don't have to do anything special with your pen. I do have like a little pen display stand on my drafting table that I can put my pen there if I want to, but I don't feel like you need to put it away just because you have putty in it. Nancy's fourth question was, do you always multi-place vertically or do you also place horizontally? And thank you so much for asking this question, because after I posted that video, I was like, I didn't talk about placing vertically or horizontally. So Nancy, thank you. I personally, and once I start multiplacing with this kit, I'll talk about that a little more, but I personally prefer to multiplace vertically, up and down. I feel like I can see what I'm doing. My hand is more comfortable that way. You know, you're placing like this as opposed to having to turn your wrist like this. So for me, I primarily multiplace vertically. You may catch me every once in a while if there's a few drills going this way, I'll lace them down, but I do prefer to multiplace vertically, and that's purely because I feel like I can see what I'm doing better and my hand is more comfortable. If you're more comfortable multiplacing horizontally, then you should do that. But for me, vertically. Thank you, Nancy, for all those questions. They were good ones that I forgot to reference in my video. Okay, and then I had just a couple on my community tab. Let me take a quick sip of water here. And I actually need to grab one of my tip cases because one of the questions on the community tab was, can I explain what I meant by thin placer and how can you tell the difference? So what we have right here, this is one of the thin multiplacers. These are becoming much more popular. You get these in Diamond Art Club kits now, and a lot of other shops. What we used to get are these thicker tips. Now, hopefully you can see from that angle how much thicker the clear plastic is compared to the white. And it's kind of hard to tell like the well, but maybe you can see it. So where this line is right here, that's the bottom of the well that you would fill with your wax. And here on the plastic, you can kind of see it. There's a really faint line right there. Hopefully you can see that difference in color just there. That is your well that you're filling with the thicker multiplacer. Now, the easiest way to identify them is the thinner ones come in white and the thicker ones come in these kind of clear plasticky colors. So we have, I think this is a 9 placer maybe. You have that one. The 3 placer used to be very popular before the 4 came out, but that is kind of what you have. There are other sizes, but these are the most popular in that thicker style. Maybe you can see the well a little bit better on this one. Hopefully you can. So I just feel like these thicker multiplacers, you use a lot more product because you're filling a larger well with wax or putty, whatever you're using. And they're just quite a bit bigger. So when you have drills on here, actually, let's do a little experiment here. Let me fill this. Do I have another pen available? Let's see. I do. Well, let's use this pen. And let's put this clear one on so you can hopefully see it a bit better. Okay, so I have some putty here, that I just dropped on my canvas. Let's fill this pen. See, that was my normal amount of putty that I would use for one of these thin placers. Man, my camera is not having a fun time today. But you can see that I really haven't filled that multiplacer. So I need to go back for some more. And again, I just roll it between my fingers and then I just place it and I just kind of push it around. I don't want the camera to keep going in and out of focus for you guys, so, but I'm just pushing it in like I would with the thin placer. And then I can't show you this because I have the camera positioned, but I just run it along a hard surface. So I'm running it flat along my desk and you can see right here, it kind of helps me cut off extra putty. All right, so Here is the thick placer, and here is the thin placer. Let's pour some drills down. This is the color we'll be multi-placing with when I get to that part of the video, so I might as well pour them out. Oh, I forgot to put the stopper in. Haha. Okay, so let's pick up, where's the plastic? Let me put this plastic back down. All right, so let's pick up 7 drills with the thin placer. And then let's pick up, what did I say this was? An 6 placer maybe? So they pick up the same. Trying to get you guys focused. Obviously, I didn't have these drills very straight in a line, but can you see how much extra space is on this tip right here? See down there, right here, you see all that extra putty in this thin line at the bottom. And then on this tip, the thin one, all you see is drill, except I picked up a crooked line. So I feel like with these thicker placers, which is this one right here, you have more of a chance of accidentally laying putty down on your canvas because there's extra surface area that isn't covered by your diamonds. I hope that makes sense. I do find that you have to remember that square drills are smaller than round drills. So a square drill is 2.6 millimeters, I believe, or is it 2.5? And round drills are 2.8. So the round drills in these thicker multi-placers are a bit better. I just feel like they're more clunky. You have more plastic. Sometimes it can be hard to get in there and lay them down properly. I'll show you how I lay down drills with one of these in a second. I'll show you both. But that's the easiest way to tell the difference. The thicker ones are clear or semi-clear, and the well is just a little bit deeper than the thin white plastic placers. You can still receive either or both in kits from companies. It just kind of depends on what they stock. I think the thicker, clear plastic ones are a little easier to get your hands on because the white thin ones are more popular. So hopefully that helps Susan actually ask that question. So Susan, if you have any other questions or if you want me to go into more detail, you can always email me, message me on Instagram, or just leave me a comment and I will either respond to you or I can make a follow-up video if it's helpful. So Susan, thank you for that question. And then we have a couple more questions here from Miss Nancy. So Nancy asks about using a straightener, which is a great question. I have some of these plastic ones, but I also have some metal ones from Everlasting Tips. Now, I should use a straightener more. I'm looking at my drills here and I'm like, oh, you should really be using a straightener. I don't use it enough. I also have some of these larger straighteners. Grab. I have one of these from Bella Arte Nicole, and then I have one of these that I got off of Amazon. I think this came in a set with some storage. I prefer something like this or metal straighteners as opposed to something like this, but these work just fine. And how I use them is I would just go in between my drill line here, and then I would just drag it. And hopefully you can kind of see that it would have straightened your line up a little bit, and then you can just go back through and kind of push it into place. Now, like I said, I don't use a straightener as often as I should. It's something I should definitely be better at, but if I'm gifting a painting to be hung up or if I'm hanging it up in my house, I care a little bit more about straight lines. But if it's just a kit that I'm working on and I'm going to store away, I don't really worry about it too much personally. Do you change your putty fully multiple times when working on a painting or just add more as needed? I did answer that question before. If just adding, how do you know when you need to add more putty? Again, that's just kind of personal preference. If you don't like how your pen is picking up your drills, then you should probably add more putty. Does the putty dry out? If you were to leave your work for a few days, would you add new putty or just continue on? Like I said before, I tend to diamond paint every day, at least a little bit. So I feel like the more you're using your putty, the better. It doesn't lose its tackiness as much, which I feel like kind of doesn't make sense, but it's just my experience. I don't know that I've left it a few days, so I can't really answer that question, but putty has a surprising amount of longevity, in my opinion. If the putty starts to stick to the drills, would you need to change it or just rework it? That's a really great question. What I would do if that's happening is I'll kind of gather any putty that's hanging around the sides and I'll just kind of flatten it out with my finger, just because kind of the oils and like if you have a little something on your finger can just help to tame that extra stickiness. I find after I use the multiplacer for a bit, I press the edge back into the canal. Yep, that makes sense. She said not sure what word to use, but yes, that makes sense. Would you say you do this often or just a little? Honestly, I find myself doing that quite often because I like to watch stuff while I diamond paint, like a lot of us, I'm sure. So if something I'm watching catches my attention, I'll stop diamond painting and I'll like sit at my desk and I'll find myself just going like this. So I'll kind of be pulling the side, whatever's hanging off the sides up and pushing it back in. I don't know, I kind of just mindlessly do that. So I would say I do that quite often. Do you actually take the putty out and move it about and put it back in the pen or just get new? Like a glue dot, you can take it out if the stick is gone and put it back in the pen another way. I do the same thing with putty. And Nancy just says, she just thanks me for doing this video and answering her questions. And she says, I think it would be hard to think of these types of things because you have been multi-placing so long, so it's natural for you. And that is so true. The things that I did cover in my first video, I really was like, how do I multi-place? Because I multi-place more than I single place these days. So hopefully that answers some questions. As always, if you have any more questions, please leave them down below. I know I get behind on responding to comments. I am actually behind. I need to get on that. So if you've left me a comment in the last probably week and a half, I will get back to you, I promise. But I do always get to my comments. I read my comments. So always feel welcome to leave a comment with any questions. You can email me. My email is down below. And my DMs are always open on Instagram. So let's get to multi-placing. Let me bring the light down just a little bit. Hopefully you guys are in an okay position to see what I'm doing. I'm going to be multi-placing this double dot here. I don't know what you would call it. And I'll use both the thin and the thicker multi-placer. I do have a piece of release paper here because I don't want to diamond paint this corner because I don't think you guys will be able to see it very well. This release paper is from Crafts with Crashly. So I'm going to work in this center because I think it'll just be the easiest for you guys to see. So let's go ahead and start. I think I'll just start over here. So I've picked up 4 drills, even though this is a 7 placer. I have picked up 4. Now I've picked up 4. And I'm just going to lay my drills down. Now, one thing I will say when multi-placing with squares, I think it's a bit more important to have your drills nice and lined up. For some reason, this tray just does not like me. Okay, that's a little bit better. So we're going to put our bottom down first, and then we're going to roll to the front. So the same way as I do with rounds, And then I'm going to place the top drill and tilt down. I do find that I readjust my square drills more often than I do with my rounds, just because I find rounds easier to place. I stuck my tray down to the glue, which is always the best option, obviously. So let's lay the bottom down and tip towards the front. So we have 7 drills there. And then we're going to do the same thing. Lay our first drill down and then roll back. And then I have 1 little drill at the end, so I'll just pick up 1 drill with my multiplacer and lay it down. And then it looks like I have 8, which happens sometimes. Put that first one down and tip back, and we have our drills placed. So I will say, this is why I found that comment from, I believe it was from Miss Lizard, so interesting, in saying that she multiplaces squares better than rounds, because personally, I think it took me longer to feel comfortable multiplacing squares than rounds, because I want them to be straight. Like I mentioned before, I'm not like overly concerned with how straight my drills are. I do like them to be more or less straight, but it doesn't have to be perfect. So interesting. I find that very, unique and good for you. Okay, so we have our thicker tip here, and I just did the same thing, and hopefully you can see just that little bit of surface area that's left with the thicker tip, but it works just the same. I just feel like my drills get a little bit more crowded when I'm laying down with the thicker placer. I don't know. I just feel like I can't get as tight as I want to, but that's just me. And I laid that drill down completely crooked. You guys keep wiggling. Sorry about that. So in that case, I would just pull the drill out, straighten it, and push it back in. So that is how I multiplace square drills. If you guys have more questions, again, please leave them in the comments down below. I'm more than happy to do a follow-up video. I can get a round and a square canvas together and we can do them at the same time, or, whatever is helpful. I get a lot of comments that I diamond paint really quickly. How do I get so many kits done? And it really is because I multi-place. If I was a single placer, there's no way I would get even half of the kits done that I do. I do diamond paint quickly. I diamond paint a lot, but the multi-placer definitely helps with that. If you have a kit that's big on color blocking that you can just keep laying down a bunch of drills at a time, you really do move through that a lot quicker. So those are my thoughts and my ideas and my tips and tricks on multiplacing with squares. Any questions, again, leave them down below and I'm happy to follow up. I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. I almost said I'll see you tomorrow because this is the first video I filmed that isn't a daily video, but not quite sure when this one will be up. So I'll say I'll see you in my next one. Bye.